Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing well. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Malin, and today I'm sharing 5 meals that I make every week, come rain or shine, and they're all easy to make, yummy, nutritious, and vegan of course. To give you a little introduction, I like to eat mainly plant-based whole foods in my day-to-day. So this means that I base my meals on whole grains, beans and lentils and legumes. I eat all fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds. And this means that the meals I'm sharing with you today will be based on this. And then of course I cook with spices and oils and things like that as well. But that's the sort of base that I use in my everyday cooking. And the meals that I'm sharing might be things that you have heard or seen before, but I'm hoping in me showing how I prepare them and pair them here in my kitchen that it will give you some ideas of how to spice things up in your own kitchen as well. And whether you're vegan or not, I think these meals are great staples. They are delicious, of course, that's important. They're nutritious and they're easy to make. And I think this is sort of the holy trinity of making a staple meal. So I think we should dig right in, but before I start talking about meal number 1, I just want to let you know that I will leave links in the description box as always to all the recipes that I'm sharing in this video. In case you want to make them at home or refer back to them, you can always find them there. But the first meal that I make every week is oats. And now I hear some of you thinking, oh my god, that's so stereotypical, and maybe it is. But it's something that I eat every week. Actually, I eat it almost every day. It's such a nutritious, filling breakfast that I also these days think is really delicious, especially because you can switch up the toppings that you add to it so much that it never gets boring really. I actually used to think that oats were bland and boring and I would only ever top it with like a dollop of jam, but these days I've come up with some ways to make it more delicious, and I also now cook it in a way that it becomes much more creamy. So what I do is I cook my oats in a mixture of plant milk and water, and this is a game changer for making creamy oatmeal. And I also like to add some natural sweetness by chopping up some dried fruit into my pot as well. So this could be some chopped up dates or dried apricots, or even just throwing in some raisins. Or I like to mash up a banana or slice a banana up into the pot as well and cook this along with the porridge, which adds a really nice banana flavor of course, but also makes it much sweeter. I also like to season my oats with a little pinch of salt because salt brings out the best in everything. Then when I'm cooking my oats, I like to stir a lot, and this just helps everything break down and become gooey and creamy just the way I want it. If you like your oats more firm, you'll want to cook them a little bit longer, but I like mine quite loose, so I cook them a little bit shorter. And then I pop them in a bowl and I top with my favorite toppings, and these change a little bit depending on the season, but what I always do is I top it with some sort of nut or seed butter, and at the moment I'm into tahini, so I like to drizzle a bit of that on top. I always add a spoonful of milled flaxseed, which is great for a plant-based source of omega-3s. And I also love to sprinkle some cinnamon over the top. What I change up the most is what fruits I add to my bowl. And at the moment, I'm loving some pear slices and some defrosted berries. But in the summer, I would totally go for fresh berries, definitely fresh strawberries, maybe some stone fruit. And this is what's fun. You can always switch it up. To finish off, I usually sprinkle over some whole seeds for a little bit of crunch. And my favorite is some toasted pumpkin seeds. Toasting your seeds actually brings out more flavor. So definitely do this, and you can do it in batch as well so that you have it on hand. And I actually also like to have a little extra pour over of plant milk, usually oat milk, because I don't like dry porridge, but I know that everyone's different here. So this is my go-to oat combination at the moment, but like I said, I really like oats because they're versatile. You can make them cold by making overnight oats, which is perfect for summer, or use them in a bircher muesli, which is similar but with some more apple and seeds in it. Or you can make it savory by cooking it with some more salt, maybe some nutritional yeast, topping with sauteed veggies and maybe some smoked tofu. And I also like to sometimes make steel cut oats. It takes a little bit longer, but if you soak them overnight, it only takes about 10 minutes and you have a little bit more bite to that kind of oatmeal, and it's really yummy. So if you've never tried it, you might want to. The next thing I eat every week is hummus, and maybe now you're thinking that that's not a meal, but I will explain to you how I make it into a meal. And I think that hummus has become every vegan's best friend because it really is just super delicious. And for those of you who don't know what hummus is, it's a bean dip made out of chickpeas, lemon juice, tahini, which is a sesame seed paste, some garlic, often some oil and or water to blend it smooth. And I think these days we've become quite loose in how we use the term hummus. I think we use it for bean dips that we make with different type of beans, and even when we spice it or add other things to it like veggies, we still call it hummus. I don't think this is what is a traditional hummus, but I'm guilty of doing this as well, and I think we all understand what we mean. It's a bean dip. I most of the time make my hummus with chickpeas, of course, but sometimes I also use butter beans or other white beans like cannellini. And why I like this is because those beans are a little bit softer, so they make a very creamy texture without adding too much water or oil to it. But you know, variety is the spice of life. If you like chickpeas, go for that, and maybe sometimes try it with some other white beans. So how I make mine is that, first of all, I like to make mine in a batch. So I make a lot so I can keep it in the fridge and eat it over time. So I usually add 2 cans of beans or chickpeas to my food processor. Then I add in the juice of 1 whole lemon. I add about 4 tablespoons of tahini, 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, 1 garlic clove, but of course you can add more here, and I also add a pinch of salt. Then I blend it on auto until it becomes smooth, and as I do this, I like to add in ice cubes. It's actually something I learned from another YouTuber. You do this because I like to blend mine for about 5-6 minutes so that it has the time to become really smooth. And when you add the ice cubes, it keeps it cool as you blend, and also it adds liquid little by little, which helps thin out the hummus and make it creamy. If towards the end of the blending process I find that the hummus is still a little bit too thick, I like to add some water to it. And I usually add 1 tablespoon at a time until I reach the consistency I like. Then I of course taste it to see if it needs more seasoning, add some more salt if I need it, or more lemon juice for example. And then I'm ready to serve it in any way I like. And there are so many delicious ways of eating hummus. One of my favorite ways of eating it is to make a hummus bowl. And basically what I mean by this is that I put some hummus at the bottom of a bowl, quite a generous amount. Then I usually top it with some greens, some roasted veggies. Now in the winter I love parsnips and beetroot, things like that. And then you can top it with whatever you like, maybe some sun-dried tomato or some olives or other things that gives a lot of flavor. And I also like to sprinkle over some seeds. As you know, if you watch this channel, I love my umami seeds, which I make with some soy sauce and things like that to give them a lot of flavor. I can link that recipe down below. So I definitely like to sprinkle that over my hummus bowls as well. And usually I eat this with some bread or some crackers, and it's really such a filling, delicious meal that's easy to put together. I also love to add hummus to sandwiches. It's a great spread, and like you saw in my meal prepping video, my most recent one, I love to do this with some greens, maybe some baked marinated tofu. That's really easy to prep and keep in the fridge. And yeah, you just pop that in a sandwich and it's really delicious. Another way I love to eat hummus that is probably a little bit more traditional is to simply serve it in a bowl, drizzle it with a little bit of extra tahini, maybe some extra virgin olive oil, sprinkle it with some whole chickpeas and a spice called sumac, which has a little bit of a sort of sour character to it. Then I also like to top it with some fresh herbs like parsley, and I also love dill, but this is probably more of a Swedish touch. We love dill in Sweden. And yeah, I like to then serve this with some vegetables like whole gem lettuce leaves for dipping in, and some carrot sticks, celery sticks, things like that, maybe some radish, and also some bread. And this makes a really simple meal that's also super filling, delicious, nutritious, all the things that you know I like. While we're on the topic of hummus, I'd like to segue into my next meal, which is the ever-changing and ever-evolving Nourish bowl. And this is the reason why I like it, because you can, again, switch it up so much and adapt it to the season you're in. And for those of you who don't know what a Nourish bowl is, it's basically a bowl of foods that are those foods that I told you about in the beginning. So you usually have a grain, you usually have a bean or legume or something of the sort that is a good protein source, and then you usually have a bunch of veggies, maybe some nuts and seeds, and like I said, I love a good dollop of hummus or some other type of bean dip on there. So this means that this meal can be a real nutritional powerhouse to put into your day, but you can still use all the foods that you love in any combination that you like. So a combination that I'm really liking at the moment is to start with some greens, and I like some massaged kale because we're in winter and this is a perfect winter green. And then I like to add some cooked quinoa on top, and to make the quinoa a little bit more interesting, I like to mix it with some chopped up fresh parsley as well as a squeeze of lemon juice and a little pinch of salt. So this means that it already has lots of flavor when it goes into the bowl. I usually keep some roasted veg handy for these types of bowls, so I just prep them in advance and keep them in the kitchen. Sometimes I make things like cauliflower or broccoli, or in the winter I of course love to have some root veg like beetroot, parsnip, swede, or even sweet potato. So I add that into my bowl as well, and now I want to add some beans also, or lentils. And in the winter I like to saute them, so a favorite at the moment is to saute some chickpeas in a little bit of oil and then spice them up. And a favorite of mine is a North African spice mix called Ras El Hanout, and you just have to try it. It's like a warming, nice, savory spice. And I also like to add some garlic powder, some salt and black pepper before piling them onto my bowl. Finally, I like to finish off with a dollop of hummus, like I said, and I also like to add a spoonful of sauerkraut or kimchi, which are fermented veggies that are really great for your gut, and they also add lots of flavor that's nice in a bowl like this. I also always add a little sprinkling of seeds because it makes everything better with a little bit of crunch. And if I'm feeling fancy, I might make a dressing. And then a favorite of mine for a bowl like this is a simple lemon and tahini dressing, and I'll link the recipe for that down below. So this is a combo that I really like now that it's winter and cold outside, but in the summer I would go more for things like lettuces and cucumber, tomato, radishes, all those veggies that are available to us here in the Northern Hemisphere in the summer, and make the most of that. But yeah, you can change this up into infinity, and I'm sure you can find a combination that you enjoy. Another thing that I like to have on a weekly basis that is really easy to switch up are smoothies. And again, you might be thinking, this sounds a little boring, Malin, and maybe also thinking that this doesn't really sound like a meal. But I do think that smoothies shouldn't be overlooked. They are so easy to make and a great way of getting fruits and veggies into your diet in a medium that is really delicious. And there's something I have every week for sure, and usually I have them as a snack in the afternoon, or I eat them with my breakfast. So I usually make a smoothie and then have it on the side of a slice of toast with some, you guessed it, hummus and maybe some veggies. An all-time favorite of mine is a combination of banana, frozen mango, some frozen spinach, and some lime or lemon juice, And if I'm feeling fancy, I throw in some fresh ginger in there as well before I pour over some oat milk, which is my preferred plant milk, but you could definitely use soy milk or some other plant milk that you like, of course. And also a little splash of water before blending it until smooth. And this is like a tropical flavor smoothie, and it's full of green goodness, and I find it really refreshing in the mornings. I also love it in the summer, but yeah, even in the winter I have this to give me a little bit of like island feeling when it's super cold here in Sweden. But another combo that I like to have more in the afternoon starts again with banana, because I think it's a great base for smoothies. Then I add in some frozen mixed berries, or often just blueberries. Again, I add some frozen spinach or even frozen kale, and then I sprinkle in either some milled flaxseed or hemp hearts for a little bit of extra fiber and omega-3 in there. And I also like to dollop in a big scoop of peanut butter or maybe almond butter if I have it on hand. Then I pour in some oat milk again and I blitz it until smooth, and I really like this smoothie. And as you can tell, I like to incorporate greens into my smoothies, and I really think that frozen greens are great for this. I don't think people keep them on hand, and I really think they should, because you don't have to worry about it ever going off, and you always have it on hand. And for smoothies it's really perfect, and for soups as well, just a little FYI. Another fun fact, or actually a useful fact that you might not know, is that when you combine leafy greens, dark leafy greens, which contain iron, with fruits that contain vitamin C, it actually helps the absorption of iron. And this is also one reason why I like to always include greens into my smoothies. And like I said with the other meal ideas as well, I definitely switch up my smoothies depending on the season as well. So in the summer I would totally go for more fresh fruit and less frozen. So yeah, then there are fresh berries and stone fruit and all that yummy stuff. So yeah, I definitely think about that here as well. The final meal that I'm sharing with you today that I make on a weekly basis is some sort of dal. And if you've been subscribing to this channel and following along for a while, you know that I love South Asian and Indian food. And while I'm no expert, I've been trying to learn how to make dals in a more traditional way. But I also like to eat them more like a soup, which I don't think is very traditional. I think it's used more like a gravy over rice usually, and I do eat it like this as well. But yeah, I definitely like it as a soup. I just can't help myself. I totally used to make dal in a very haphazard way in the past that wasn't very traditional, and like I said, I'm trying to learn, and a channel I've found really useful for this is called Bong Eats. I also like a website called Cook with Manali, so I can link those down below if you want to learn more as well. One thing that I think is a game changer for getting really good flavor into your dal is to temper your spices. And this basically means that you are cooking with whole spices that you sort of let sizzle for a while in some hot oil, and this just brings flavor out of the spice and into the oil that then goes into the dish. And also something that I've learned recently is to cook my lentils separately and do the tempering separately. So you have the lentils cooked on one hand and all your flavorings cooked on the other hand, and then you combine them. And this is such a game changer, and I totally want to share that with you. A favorite type of dal that I like making these days is called Dal Palak, and Palak means spinach if I'm not mistaken. It's at least a dal with a lot of spinach in it. And to make it, I start by cooking some split red or yellow lentils, which is what I can find most easily here in Sweden. But really, I think you should use tur dal or mung dal, which is the traditional dal used for this dish. And when the lentils are well cooked, I temper some whole cumin seeds in some hot oil in a separate pan until it becomes very fragrant and starts making a popping sound. I also like to add in some red chili flakes instead of the whole dried red and fresh green chilies, which is traditionally used in this dish. It's just easier for me to find, and also I can't quite handle the heat. Once the seeds are tempered, I add in some fresh minced garlic and some grated fresh ginger, and I saute for another minute, and then I add in some chopped fresh spinach and allow it to wilt before pouring in the cooked lentils. I also add in some ground turmeric, and I season with salt and black pepper. Then I allow it to simmer for a minute or two before I serve it. This allows the flavors to come together and create this delicious Dal Palak. Really, to make this dish, you should also use a spice or ground herb called hing or asafoetida. I'm not sure I'm saying that right at all, but I haven't found it yet here in Sweden. But if you can find it, definitely use it. I'm sure it will bring more magic to the dish. And like I said, I usually like to eat my dals as a soup, but in the summer especially, I like to make chat on the side. And I don't think this is traditional again, but this is just how I like to eat it. And chat is a South Asian street food that is made with many different ingredients and also can have many different bases for the dish. And the one I usually like to make is chana chat or chickpea chat. Chana means chickpea, if I'm not mistaken again. And yeah, to make this, I combine chickpeas with some chat spices and some chutneys, usually a little bit of vegan yogurt I put on there. I use veggies like cucumber, tomato, red onion that I mix up with all the other ingredients. And then I usually add some sev on top, which is a crunchy snack that I find in my South Asian market here in Sweden. And that just adds that really nice crunch that I think is, well, that's what I think makes this super special. And that's about it, I think. But another way I like to eat dal if I'm feeling like cooking more of a feast is to make rice, of course. I can eat the dal with the rice, and I also like to make some chana masala, which is like curried chickpea stew type thing. And another dish that I really like to make is called bangan barta. Again, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I'll link all the recipes down below. And this dish is a aubergine dish with lots of spices, and yeah, you cook it until it's really soft, and all of this together makes a really yummy meal, I think. But again, I don't know if you're really meant to combine them, but I like to, so I'm just giving you what I know. I hope you've enjoyed learning about my go-to meals, and personally I think these meals make up a great arsenal, as sort of a vegan starter cooking kit. But I'd love to know what dishes you make every week or always come back to. So please share in the comments. I'd love to know. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed. Thank you for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.